And do I say it drilling?
Dry.
Dryling.
Dryling.
Yep.
Tom or
Just act like
Thomas?
it's Tom. Tom works.
Okay, and
We
then
call him Mr. Highline.
You notice that. I love the Highline.
I was fed up today so bad. I've never been that fed up in my life.
that's how I felt with Jesse. Okay, so we're ready to rock. David, record when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm just gonna. Well,
You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy. Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer, where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, David Hall,
Hello.
Greg Hectus,
how did I get here?
and special guest Tom Dryling.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, welcome everybody. All right, let's get to meet Tom Dryling. Thanks for coming on, Tom. You've been part of Team Tifosi here for, I don't know, so a few weeks, a couple weeks. But first, let's go back in time and learn about how you got started in iRacing. When did you first hear the word iRacing, and then what did you do about it?
So I had to hear about iRacing probably around 2006, just before it was going to come out live. I was running a league, a couple of leagues that were thinking about transferring over when it came out. They had a couple of available alpha testers, beta testers, somewhere between there. And I got in and I started back then. There was a few things that I didn't like, so I just kind of left it there and I left sim racing completely. I came back about 6 years ago and I've been running a lot since and really happy with everything.
Okay, yeah, we were talking about that story, and the reason that you really didn't like it early on was the lack of the ability to do a custom paint job.
Yeah, I was big into painting my own schemes, painting other people's schemes, and you just couldn't do it right then. Trading paints wasn't going to be out anytime soon, they thought. So I wasn't very happy with it. So I was like, I'll just pack everything up.
Right. Okay, but you're back. You saw the light, and now we have the trading paints, and you were showing off one of your paint jobs in the super late model just a little bit ago.
Yeah, it's a super late model league that I'm in. Also got in contact with the Spears late model series that are going to be running a special event next week, and they got a hold of me so they could do their visor and everything look it proper.
Okay, cool. All right, let's hear about your setup as far as your hardware and software. I mean, what are you running for wheels, pedals, and monitors, VR, and then third-party software?
So I have a Fanatec 2.0 Club Sport base. I usually run two different wheels. I have a BMW wheel that I use for cup racing, any oval type racing because it's a bigger wheel. And then I've got a Formula wheel that I use for IndyCar racing, usually any road course racing. I have the inverted Fanatec pedals that I use. Love those things. They're awesome. I use a single monitor. It's a 32-inch BenQ. I will be upgrading it shortly when they come back in stock to the new 49-inch Ultra Super one.
Ooh, those are so nice. Just total eye candy, huh?
Most definitely.
Yeah, that'll be a nice upgrade. Any thought of maybe going to triples instead?
Triples probably would not work in my apartment that I share with my girlfriend. Just not enough room. and unfortunately, VR makes me car sick.
Well, why don't you just get rid of the girlfriend? Wouldn't it fit in better then?
That might be cheaper.
Obvious. Well, I don't know. I mean, when I look at how wide my triples are, they're not too much wider than one of those Samsung widescreens.
Now, Greg, are you really giving him a hard time considering there's 3 girls in your house?
Yes.
All right. What do you have all that equipment mounted to? Like, is there a cockpit or using a desk or?
It's a desk type setup. I will be getting a new setup soon. Have not determined on exactly which one. Still debating about a couple of them, but I'll be getting a rig shortly.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot. We'll talk about some today. So, and you'll learn some more about what's out there. Let's talk about what are you running on iRacing. Obviously, with Team Tifosi, you're running the NASCAR iRacing series, and we're kind of doing the Road to Pro. But what else are you doing besides those 2 series outside of that?
So yeah, I do run the NIS series, mostly open. I also run Road to Pro when I can and work allows me to. Other than that, I'm running the major series. Dave is also running that with my team, Elite West, with Richie Hearn, former IndyCar driver. Run that series. I run a super late model series, and I also run an Xfinity fixed league on Sunday nights.
Yep, you're definitely keeping busy. I got your profile in front of me. Overall winning percentage on oval 2.6. That's about where I'm at. And yeah, we've been having fun in the NIS Series Open since you've joined the team, and you've been running with us unofficially for several weeks before that, Tom. So tell everybody, the listeners, how you got involved with Team Tifosi, and how did that come about?
Well, how I got mixed up with you guys was I've been a listener to the podcast for quite some time. And we were looking for a driver to help us with a 24-hour race. So I messaged you guys and got a hold of David. And David started running some events with us. And he offered to have me come over and join you guys. And it's been a lot of fun. And you guys are hilarious on TeamSpeak.
Yeah, and the chat's pretty fun on Facebook as well.
Most definitely.
All right, and what is your most memorable iRacing moment so far?
Well, I have like 2 from last year. One of them was at Martinsville, where I actually beat Sage Karam in an open NIS race. So that would be probably the biggest name I've ever beat. And then the 2 IndyCar Indy 500s that I won last year out of the 4 races I ran.
Okay. And I was looking at, you got some stats listed here from iRacing in the past. I'm going to read off a couple of them here. 2016 Pacific Major Sportsman Champ, 2017 NIS Champ Division 3, and then some major wins in the major series, Southern 500, the 2.4 hours of Daytona, World 600, Indy 500, and so on. That's pretty good stats.
Thank you. Yeah, those are some of the races that I've really loved, and running the major series has been a lot.
That the competition in that series, especially in the Americas division, is just really tough.
Is that the one that Mike Ouellette runs?
Yes, he runs the league. The guys that is it Christian Chandelier that's leading in the Americas division, or he's definitely one of the front runners.
Yeah, Kristen Chandler and Reynolds run that series.
Yeah, that'll keep you honest. A couple Coke drivers in there, huh?
Most definitely.
Well, was it Blake or Christian? One of them had been running Europe and wanted to come back over to Americas because there's a little bit tougher competition. A lot more of the drivers are running the Americas time zone.
Christian Chandler.
There you go. All right, and then so let's talk about. So we talked about most memorable moments and whatnot, but what about the future? So, what is your goals for the season, so to speak, with the coronavirus I think you're out of work because of that, and so you're racing more because of the virus situation.
Yeah, right now because of the shutdown, I'm a casino worker, so it's allowing me to run a whole lot more races. My goal is to get a whole lot better on the road side. My oval side has been pretty good. My road side needs a lot of work, and I've been working with Richie and David as well to get better at the road side.
So when's the next big road race? What, Le Mans?
Yeah, that would be Le Mans. On the major side, we've got the 600 that we're running this weekend.
All right, very good. Well, welcome to the team, Tom. We're happy to have you with us here at Tifosi Racing, and it's been fun running with you, and thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. It's been quite enjoyable with you guys.
Yeah, we're going to get you on the streaming soon. In fact, you can see all of us at Tifosi Racing streaming. Well, most of us, our races are there, so check it out. All right, let's jump into topics. I guess we'll go right into NASCAR Pro Invitational. Let's talk about what happened before the race, pre-race. They announced Rascal Flatts for the national anthem, Kelsey Grammer with the command to start your engines, and Coach Joe Gibbs to give the prayer and invocation. And so, man, with a lineup like that, man, that's star-studded. It's like the real, Firecracker 400, guest appearance. Pretty cool. And I don't know if you saw it, but the Rascal Flatts performance was pretty good, considering the three performers were actually in different places.
Did you think when they were performing that they were going to? I just didn't know how they were gonna, with lag and stuff like that for over the internet. I didn't know how it was gonna sound.
It looked like they were using like AirPods, and my guess was they were on some kind of speaker, like a phone call, like a conference call, and we're just kind of listening to each other through that.
Well, whatever it was, that was the best performance that they've had at the start of a race so far this year.
I didn't watch it, but if everybody's singing along to a pre-recorded track, you can kind of figure out the lag time for each person and then compensate for that.
Well, obviously it was probably pre-recorded, so but all in all, it sounded really flawless to me.
Yeah.
The way it did it, but the thing that got me was how they did the flyover afterwards, right?
It's funny you say that. When Coach was given the prayer, and it was a fairly long one for a before the race prayer, but Coach was really into it, and I was thinking, man, this is so much like a real race. All we need now is a flyover to make it just perfect. And just like you said, Greg, on cue, they had a flyover.
So NASCAR had thrown up this tweet afterwards showing about it, but members of the 4th Fighter Wing from SJAFB, I didn't click on the link here to know what that one is about, but provided us with the incredible virtual flyover, which it kind of got me, because I think, was it you, Mike, in our chat said if you would have told me that Joe Gibbs was giving the prayer at the beginning on iRacing, you would never have thought it.
I know, it's kind of surreal. This whole thing is going on for iRacing. But yeah, the flyover really caught me by surprise. It's actually in reference to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, I think out of North Carolina. And they're an actual squadron at a real Air Force base, and they were talking about that team, even though they were showing a virtual flyover. It looked like some kind of flight sim.
I'm wondering if they were the ones that were scheduled to do the race, maybe?
Right, give them some recognition,
You gotta wonder, we're taking this for granted what we're doing now, but how many of these things are gonna not be, when real NASCAR comes back, there probably won't be flyovers, there probably won't be, because there's not even fans that they need to sing to. They're gonna do the national anthem, they're gonna do the prayer, but there's really no need for the flyover, right?
There'd been some cutbacks on flyovers anyway because some politicians were complaining about the money being spent.
Yeah, but it's a good value for the military. They got to drive enrollment. For the military ranks, and those kind of things really help that. And so you got to look at it like marketing.
I don't disagree. I just know I've been to a few races where there wasn't a flyover.
Now we kind of passed through one there. What happened Saturday night, David?
Well, so we can almost call this a little bit of pre-race. There was Josh Berry. He basically put on a dominating show and took the checkered flag on Saturday Night Thunder at Richmond. I gave this one a watch, and it was pretty entertaining to watch as well. I haven't really watched or raced the Xfinity cars in a long time, so it was interesting seeing them out there. Even though it's the same model you have in the Cup car, they definitely look just a little different, and they definitely drive different too.
And how about the broadcast? To our friend Evan Pasoko and his team, man, I mean, they are getting the opportunity of a lifetime to be able to be the broadcast announcers on a NASCAR race with real NASCAR drivers. I mean, on network television. It's so cool.
I think it's safe to say that Evan is on the same level as the MRN guys and really the TV broadcasters, I think, now. Not just in experience, but in notoriety.
Yeah, and then, Tim Terry and the other guy whose name escapes me, but they do a great job too. I mean, they are the three of them do it really good. And iRacing, as far as the broadcast and the visuals out of their new broadcast studio in Boston, I mean, Drew Adamson, and his team are doing a great job. I mean, I thought it was a pretty well broadcast race. I think they're a little slow with the replays, and if they could just get the replays up a little bit quicker, I think it would just be perfect.
Yeah, and we'll get into this story a little bit more later as well. But Steve Myers was on with Mike Bagley earlier this week on a podcast with MRN, and was talking about how a majority of the video footage that's going to the studio is coming directly from iRacing, and then they're just kind of putting some of the graphics and replays together after the fact in the Fox studio.
Yeah, so they got to figure out just a quicker on the replay, and I think they really got it nailed down. But visually, it's really working. Okay, let's keep going. The race. Okay, so Sunday, it was all about Ryan Preece and Matthew DiBurito, or however you say his name. They were getting into it, guys, and there was payback going both ways.
I think it's Matt. I race in my birthday suit.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this time it was a giraffe suit.
And I just heard, I was listening, I went out to grab dinner before the race, or before the podcast, and he was getting interviewed on, I can't remember what thing on Sirius XM, but he was talking about getting ideas of what to wear next from his fans.
Yeah, but speaking about the on-track action, him and Ryan Preece definitely got at each other. And he was pretty. We all kind of pointed out, in fact, as we were watching the race, Matt got parked for intentionally wrecking. However, he
happened to Ryan.
He intentionally wrecked Ryan because Ryan intentionally wrecked him, and Ryan didn't get parked.
Well, Ryan Preece wrecked him twice. Okay, so if you scroll down on that first link, you'll see a tweet from Wood Brothers Racing with a GIF of the replay, and you can see that Matt DiBenedetto is way up in the outside lane in the corner, way up high. And he just barrels it in there, goes right from the bottom, right up into his quarter panel, and just takes him out.
Now, is it not just awesome that his own race team was coming to his defense?
I know, I love it.
That's like awesome.
And it was real time, too, Greg. Like, this tweet was like just a couple minutes after it happened, kind of thing. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then they were like ready to throw down after the race. He was like, "Give me your address and I'll settle this," or something. Yeah.
These guys, like, I don't know if they've gotten the hint, but I mean, obviously we're all like stuck in our homes, and there's probably a lot of angst in people. But Have they not seen what's gone on? I mean, they're good with their PR stuff. Like this intentionally wrecking, I don't find it anything bad. It's just it doesn't look good on. They all look like fools, do they not? Like to me, it looks like a fool.
Let me ask you this: does it happen on the real racetrack?
Yeah, it has.
Yeah, so this is no different than that.
Well, for an extent, I don't think it happens this way though. Like, do you think that would happen the way that all unfolded there? Do you think it happens on the racetrack that way? Especially knowing the consequences. See, the problem here is there is no fear consequence. There is no fear that you're going to wreck and maybe hurt, get hurt.
Right.
Right?
Not just that, there's no fear of the shenanigans afterwards, because they will come, their crew members or them, they'll come look for you, and there's possibility of real fisticuffs at the track that you don't get in the virtual racing.
I don't know if Ryan Priest has seen Matty D, but I don't think you want to go up against Matty D.
Yeah.
I don't even think Ryan Newman would want to go up against Matty D.
I mean, Matty D is probably the only body type that's close to Ryan Newman.
Here's the
Quite
thing.
a bit, yeah.
Here's the thing. I don't mind how the drivers handled themselves. What I mind is how the officiating was handled, where one driver was clearly punished and the other wasn't. That's, everybody sees that. I mean, if I see it, everybody can see it. And it makes iRacing or look bad, or the officiating. Nobody really knows if is it NASCAR making the call, is it Tyler Hudson or somebody like that, or what. But they just need to be careful with that. I mean, it looked bad, and people on Twitter were talking about it. That it felt like favoritism.
It's inconsistency, right? Like,
right.
They're very inconsistent from week to week, and it's a show of their growth and the fact that they're learning. That they probably, if you told them February that this is what they were going to be doing, they would have laughed at you. And now they're trying to do everything. We see it every week. There are always patches and things like that. They're trying to stay ahead of this stuff so that they can put on a good show. And the thing that I took out of this race too was, obviously this one was a no reset race, right?
Right.
So guys still stayed in it after they were wrecked because they realized their sponsor time needed to be shown. For some reason, you saw a different attitude toward the sponsors side this week.
Especially Bubba.
Well, that had nothing to do with the race. That has to do with what happened to Bubba.
And Kyle, to a degree. But one thing I want to happened in the race was poor Christopher Bell. Man, he had the wreck of his life. I mean, he got hit 4 different times. Probably got at least 8x somehow, and probably if it would have let him 12. But did you see the replay of Chris Bell and what happened with him?
The only thing he didn't get where he didn't go is in the crowd. How is this also because they weren't throwing the caution for that? That should have had a caution, and people should have been slowing up before that.
And you can see that even more on the next tweet on our script. Wreck after wreck after wreck, and got a car sideways on the back stretch, or is that no? That's the front stretch. No, that is the back stretch. And they didn't throw the yellow. You're not having to worry about cleaning the track like when you throw cautions in real life. But if the track's blocked and and another car can't let up until they know the yellow's there, you're gonna end up taking out more competitors.
I'm sorry, when you don't have a reset and those cars, you're on a short track, the caution comes out when there's 2 cars involved. I'm sorry, that should be how it is unless they're spun off onto the bottom. The rest of it should have been a caution no matter what. We don't know if it's fueled by TV time. This has to be finished up before they run out of their TV slot. But you can't tell me that's not you see NASCAR throws a caution for a water bottle cap on the track. So you got to do something here on the iRacing side.
If it really comes down to time, make it a timed race.
I agree, Greg. I think this makes, I don't want to say iRacing look bad, but it's another one of those things that kind of makes it gimmicky or arcade-like, where some wrecks bring out the caution, but others don't. It all depends on how much time we left and how much commercials, need to be shown, or whatever their formula is. The NASCAR fans can see right through it, and everybody can see these cautions that should be thrown that are not, and everyone is confused by it. And I think it turns people off, especially the hardcore race fan. And if I was iRacing in NASCAR, I would want, to make this a little bit more legitimate, and let's have a caution when there should be a caution, just like Greg said.
Well, and if you look at that whole clip with Christopher Bell, he gets back on his all fours again, and then drives into another guy. Like, he shouldn't even be accelerating like he's trying to get back into a race again. His car's wrecked. Like, you don't see a car that's been in an accident try and get back up to full speed after a wreck in NASCAR. The problem is I saw this twice. Like, the inconsistency in the Saturday Indy race was the same way, or IndyCar race, as this was on Sunday.
Yeah, so that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, the way that it's being officiated. Let's just let's let it be automated. Forget having a race admin. Let's just make it like official racing and have the service throw the caution.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. Why not?
The good news is nobody got fired this week, Mike.
That's the headline, right?
You do realize the week's not over, right?
Okay. So that was a headline from Jenna Fryer of the Associated Press for the week.
You mean the person who's trying to get as many tweets as she can get out before the end of the week, bashing stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've had this conversation. I've had a problem with her all week for some reason, and she just rubs me the wrong way in her tweets, I guess.
She's a bit snarky.
She also broke that they're opening up the race shops in North Carolina as an essential business.
Yeah, so NASCAR will be coming back shortly. It'll only take them 2 or 3 weeks to get ready. All right, Radioactive. That was pretty cool.
So we have a clip here doing on the what site is it off of here? On someone's YouTube page we got the link from. But anyways, the Radioactive was quite interesting to listen to once again this week. Obviously, it's snipped here and there together to figure out what's going on. But it's good to hear their perspective as they're racing. What'd you guys think of it?
Yeah, I love it. I love EJ O'Rourke is putting together these videos. It really gives some insight about how these guys respect each other. I mean, the way they were talking at the end of the race, the nonsense going on with, De Benedetto and Priest. It was interesting to hear what people had to say about it.
It's a perspective you would never get, right? Like, the only time that this was even possible where driver would talk to driver in actual NASCAR was when they had the tandem drafting, right? The rest of it was you'll never see this. So that to have these personalities interact like that is pretty good.
Right. Now, the Twitch channel, to a side note, a lot of these drivers are doing Twitch and whatnot, and they're streaming their personal, view, like Jimmy Johnson and whatnot, and that's really gained a lot of traction. In fact, I was listening to a podcast earlier today during lunch from Nate Ryan at NBC, his podcast. He had Parker Kligerman on again, and that's what they were talking about was, can NASCAR embrace a way that this Twitch streaming is kind of the second screen experience when watching these NASCAR races. So when you watch that Sunday race on Fox, everybody's on your phone watching their favorite driver on Twitch while they're watching a broadcast on TV. And Parker was saying, let's do that in real NASCAR. We got cameras on all these cars. The broadcast can only use a handful of them for technical reasons. Why not get those other ones online like a Twitch stream? So the fans can pull those up, have chat, interact, that kind of thing. Maybe hear the drivers, and it was a really cool idea.
Well, and think of the sponsor advertising they can put on it as well. Like, you know, how we have frames and things like that. You can have their sponsors scrolling through while you're looking at it. It's things where you could advertise on it as an extra thing that somebody's looking at, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he was saying to let the teams run it. You know, the broadcast only takes 5 or 6 drivers they pick for the broadcast. Everybody else, they're on their own. They can stream whatever they want over their own page or their own social media. Pretty cool idea. But I didn't finish the podcast, but they did finish, you know, talk about iRacing in depth as usual. So more to come on that.
Are you saying you gave up on the podcast, Mike?
Well, I know Gluck is giving up on iRacing.
Yeah, he put out a tweet and he said he was trying to cover this Invitational Series as if it was the real thing, but he can't do it anymore, and listed off a list of reasons why. Dell has a nice reply to it, Dell Jr., saying this is your truth, but this is still a great thing. And that may be exactly what it is no, this is not real racing. It's something that's different, but it's still great. And of course, for all of us who do it online as well, we enjoy it because it puts us even closer to these pros than iRacing did when they were only racing in real life. But I didn't read the whole article because I tend to really not listen to Jeff Gluck.
The other thing here is and this is my biggest problem with all these tweets. This is the same between Jenna Fry and Jeff Gluck. You can give up on it all you want and you try to understand it. Guess what? Ray Alfala talks about this in one of his tweets about how, you know, esports is a big industry now that's is becoming something. And you tell me right now that those 40 drivers that compete in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola series, you can't tell me that they do not mean it doesn't mean something to them. Guess what? They're going to go home. Someone's in that series is going to go home with a paycheck more than Jeff Gluck makes a year. You can't tell me it's not more. It's not important to somebody. So don't give me this, you know, he can bail out on all he wants, but that's just an opinion on it. He sees it as a video game. This is always going to be labeled as a video game. Well, guess what? You talk to Ray Alfala with his 4 championships, that's a lifestyle for him now. The way he's done it. It's something that he has in his life that he's doing that brings enjoyment to him, and it's actually a sustainable living if he does it properly.
And whether it's a win at the top level or in a middle split NIS level, it's still exciting and it still feels real. And a part of what we love about racing isn't just the driving. It's the competition.
Well, look at this afternoon, David, between me and you. Your high and my very low afternoon have a feeling in 2 different races.
Well, and that was after me being wrecked out of 7 in a row. We'll talk about that more in results, but yeah, it's definitely affects us probably more emotionally than we should. The lucky thing for me is I can be upset for about 30 seconds and walk away and go do something else. But it's not real, but it's still real.
Yeah,
it's real to somebody. It's real to somebody. It's all about perspective, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're emotionally invested is a good word, but I like Dale Earnhardt's quote. I'm going to read it. He said, quote, "While I viewed this experiment as an amazing opportunity for growth for iRacing as a business, I never saw it as an equal alternative to live action." But too bad for Gluck. I mean, he tried. He didn't do his tweet up like he was doing before on Instagram Live this week. And I think the whole Kyle Larson thing really rubbed him the wrong way.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate. However, close to 1 million viewers didn't give up on iRacing, did they, Greg?
No, and Manny, was it Anekel, tweeted that there was 971,000 total views. It was at 291,000 in the 18 to 49 range. Interesting to note that the 18 to 49% is increased slightly every race. So, take it for what it is stats wise. Did some of those numbers pump up because they wanted to see what the next bad thing that happened this week they would, or was it just exposure because of all the stuff that happened last week?
NASCAR's big thing for growth is that younger audience from 18 to 49, because their audience is really older than that, the core audience. And so when they look at stats, that's what they're looking for. And what did I say in the chat today about this?
I missed it.
I said, I think NASCAR is going to find out very shortly that they had better stats with iRacing than they do with their real racing. You just wait and see.
Well, and I kept seeing a whole bunch of stuff this week, and like someone said after the Kyle Larson stuff, and I saw things like, what would Dale Earnhardt Sr. think of this? And I said, and I'm thinking to myself, people got to stop living in 2001. We don't live in 2001. NASCAR isn't 2001 anymore.
Man, that's 20 years ago.
Computers and the internet and Twitter and all that stuff was not, the Twitter and them wasn't even around when Dale died. So you can't live in the past. And people that are saying that I miss the good old days, well, yeah, if you keep thinking back, you're gonna let everything pass you. Like, NASCAR has been pretty good for what it's been over the years. It's had rough spots, but I think them showing racing into this stuff this year, like getting into this esports in this bad time that we're in, was a great undertaking for a company that was taking a risk, right?
Yeah. The people that were around 2001 are the people that are over 50. And so that's not the audience they're trying to get. They need a younger audience. So I think iRacing is driving that. It seems like the stats are backing that statement up.
And I don't know how many. I don't know as much Dell history as a lot of guys do. However, there was a time when Dell didn't want to be on a multi-race car team, and then he was a multi-race car owner. So Dell's not afraid of change.
The other thing that gets me is, you're gonna find, like, what was I reading to you guys last night? The increase in subscriptions to iRacing over the last since January 1st, I think is what I said. I said it was almost a 50,000 person subscription increase. Like, if you think that's over a couple weeks of watching it on TV, who's watching it really? Like, who's going to get on a computer and do this? It's going to be that 18 to 49 demographic, right?
Yeah. All right. Diecast announcement, David.
So we've talked about some being able to order your own diecast straight out of iRacing. Well, now you can get your Pro Drivers diecasts, and they have one coming from Will Byron's win last week.
Pretty cool. I love the Exalta with the different shades of blue. It's beautiful. Now, Lionel Racing and the people that make these diecast, they're obviously taking an iRacing paint job and making a diecast out of it. Is there a business opportunity here to market to other, normal iRacers like ourselves to take our paint jobs and make a diecast?
We covered one about a year ago, I believe.
There's a guy who does it, yeah. But I'm saying as a company, maybe Lionel Racing or one of these diecast companies should look into that.
Well, the problem, like, obviously they can make them off of real racing ones, but the problem is they can't take anything that somebody would create in iRacing legitimate, right? Because of the the rights to all these sponsors.
Copyright crap, yeah.
Copyrights is so much, like even here in Canada, we can't even, like, if we get a diecast shipped from the States, I don't know if you've ever seen the thing with the States, beer, tobacco, and all those things can't be put on diecast that come from the States to Canada. So you'll get, like, if Dale Jr., I should show you the car, but I have a Dale Jr. car that says Dale Jr. on the hood because it doesn't say Budweiser. Like, there's so many things that you can't put on cars in different areas, right?
I see. Yeah, pretty cool. Get your William Byron race winner from Bristol at Lionel Racing. So
I wonder if he'll do the other one that from this week winning, because that was a custom paint by somebody else too, right?
I would think they would. I mean, they got to keep in business, you know, and this is the only thing going. So, what are you going to do?
So he said he wasn't going to do it, but now he is, Mike.
What number is he coming back as? Is he taking that number?
Oh, that's a good question. Jeff Gordon has announced he's going to run the Sunday race at Talladega. So, pretty cool. I'm glad it's going to be fun to watch Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Jr. maybe tandem drafting together.
This actually reminds me of something. I've been to quite a few races at Bristol, and for a while they were doing a Legends race where they were bringing back a lot of retired racers to run a short little race there. Until one of the last years I was there, a 75-year-old racer got in a really bad accident, and they quit doing it. So we're getting this opportunity for some of the retired drivers to come back in a way that doesn't involve having $1 million sponsorship deal or putting their body in the same level of risk. Right. So that's another great thing about this.
Well, you saying that, David, because Gordon, do you remember the year that when he was covering for Earnhardt, he asked Rick, he's like, I don't want to do Talladega. So that's what they put. I think they put Bowman in for that Talladega race that they had to go through while they were subbing for Earnhardt. And so now he's coming back to actually race Talladega in virtually.
Yeah, I bet you he won't have a motion rig.
I'm wondering if he's going to be in the studio one, the Clint Boyer one.
Well, they're going to do 40 drivers. I think they learned their lesson from last week. I hope they did. It was kind of silly how they were, remember they excluding Michael McDowell and other people.
Well, did you guys see that Larry McReynolds was watching last year's, he posted up on his Twitter page too, that he was watching last year's eNASCAR Coca-Cola Series race to get some information on how that race unfolds at Talladega, which is, I think that race was a really clean race too to watch. So I have a feeling this Talladega race could be a better race to showcase what iRacing is if it's done, if they race respectfully.
Right. All right, let's switch gears. Let's go to IndyCar here. And pre-race, before the race, Kyle Busch showing off his setup on his Twitter
Carolina
account.
Sims unit.
What do you guys
rig,
think of his
and it's really cool.
He's got
look,
Sim
I'm going retro.
obviously.
I'm going,
But,
I don't know,
talks about it a
1980s,
little bit.
1990s
He's a
IndyCar.
video.
Because I'm still using the
beautiful
shifter.
rig.
There's no paddle shifters in NASCAR. We don't use paddles.
Running a Fanatic
None of that stuff.
shifter. Why
Old
was he
school.
doing it gated?
And if
Why
you
wouldn't
need
he
any
turn it to
telemetry,
sequential?
look, it's just
I never
straight up
understood
buttons.
that with what
All
he
it
was
is
doing in
buttons.
that race when he was
Buttons
explaining it.
everywhere. All right. So it's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I want to thank everybody at IndyCar. I've had some awesome time so far practicing and getting ready in some of the practice races. The IndyCar group of drivers has really been cool to invite me in and be a part of it all. So I'm ready to roll. Let's have some fun. Let's rock this.
So
Rowdy Energy, you better grab one, sit back, and enjoy the show.
Yeah, so you're talking about the Motegi twin ring oval race, and yeah, you have to downshift in the corner.
Yeah, because that was once again this week, this race. When you get it, you think about this race. The IndyCar is about adjustments in race. That's the one thing that those cars really need to run really well, and the fixed setups doesn't help them with that, because they need that wake jacker to help them in traffic. And you could see it when they first started going there in the race. The guys, when they would charge real hard into the corner, and then they would, on the exit, they would get out and wash out if they had someone in the outside. Like, they were pinching some guys off. They were just making some really bad moves. And one of the things that happened was pole sitter, shoot, I'm forgetting his name. Wickens, sorry, thank you, Tom. He had started off there good, and then Will Power came off the corner and got right on his left rear and almost spun him out. Wickens made a hell of a save, but his car looked like it was never the same after that for the rest of the race. Like, the aerodynamics of these cars are very sensitive, and you need that wake jacker is the biggest thing that they can't play with on a fixed setup.
Right.
So if you think about how the race went, it was a pretty good race. It went by pretty quickly. I noticed that when I was watching it. But it was mostly dominated by Powers, Dixon, Harvey, Pagenaud. They were all up there. McLaughlin was up there. Even after pit stop, it looked like there might be some fuel strategy going on there at the end, but it didn't end up falling that way. And so then there was a late Will Powers and Scott finally caught up to Will Powers with like 10 to go, and Oliver SQ, I don't know what he was doing, but he was trying to pass the leaders on the inside to make it 3 wide when they were the first time that they were attacking each other to try and pass. He decides to drive it 3 wide and just pushes up and wrecks both of them. And no caution, once again. Like, this is a caution thing. So Will Powers has got all this damage, and so Simon Pagenaud runs him down, and Will puts up a pretty good fight if you see the way they were battling there, but that car should have never had any speed after that wreck either. But very good finish. Simon Pagenaud goes on to win his 2nd in a row. He's quickly becoming one of my favorite drivers from just the way he is, as personality-wise. He's probably one of the most exciting guys to talk about sim racing too.
So this guy Eskew, I don't think he's making any friends. This is, I think, the second time he's been involved in a questionable incident, and to be a lap car, to take out not only first but second place as he's trying to pass first. I mean, that's crazy.
I just don't understand. It was 10 to go. Like, obviously they weren't throwing any caution, so he wasn't going to get his lap. It just, for some reason, for me, it rubs me as the way, like, just zoned out, not paying attention, or trying to be a hero, one of the things. But it didn't make any sense.
Yeah, and if this was a real race, I'm sure drivers would be talking to him. But it'll be interesting to see if this kind of his driving style carries over to the real track, because we really haven't seen him in an IndyCar yet. He is a rookie this year.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. Like, these guys maybe are trying to make a name for themselves, trying to bring sponsorship. You know, we don't know what some of these guys are because they haven't had any time on the track, right?
Right, and to go out there and wreck the leaders as a lap car, I mean, come on.
Could you imagine, like, you've never even turned a lap in a professional race with these guys, and you're already on in their bad books?
Right, that's what my point is. I mean, they're going to sit this guy down and have a couple words with him when they get to the track, probably, because the way he's driving out here virtually.
I think I remember seeing a tweet from Dave Moody out in Twitterverse asking when we go back to real racing, if any retaliation will happen on the real track for what happened in iRacing.
I don't think you're going to have... Oh, you're talking about, like, in the NASCAR side?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to... I have a feeling the NASCAR side, they're going to be racing so often, there's not enough time for grudges to really build up. Like, you know, there's going to be some, but I bet you car owners will start stepping in if cars start getting torn up and you got to go Wednesday, Friday, Saturday or something, and you got to try and get these races in. They can't keep bringing cars to the track, right?
Yeah, and the last big really wrecking each other rivalry I remember was Carl Edwards and Brad Keselowski. And once it gets to that point, NASCAR steps in as well.
Well, and then Kenseth and Logano was one of the ones too.
So I got to watch part of this kind of on my lunch break, which I love the timing of the race because I can do that because I work Saturday. But what Paul Tracy and Townsend Bell were talking about on the broadcast was signature driving style. I mean, you could tell it's Will Power by the way he tries to break the draft, and he would swerve down to the inside and back up to the wall, and Paul was like, yeah, that's Will Power. You can tell, and you can tell that's Scott Dixon by the way he's running his line. And I thought that was interesting that the guys doing the broadcast can really kind of tell, even on the virtual racetrack, who's in the car.
The other thing I noticed, I don't know if you obviously said, Mike, you didn't get most of it. I don't know if any of the other guys here watched that race. It was another one where they didn't throw caution. They threw caution at a random time early on in that race that I think there probably should have been 2 or 3 more before that. There were incidents that should have brought cautions out. But anyways, that caution thing again came up in that race. But the other thing that gets me is I have a feeling that, and this is just my opinion on it, these IndyCar guys take it more seriously than the Cup guys. They are more focused. There isn't as much drama. They're really good with their sponsor plugging and using Twitter and all that stuff properly with iRacing. And I just feel like there's more passion on the IndyCar side for it.
Yeah, but you can't tell by the stats, which were released. NBCSN, they did earn 120,000 viewers for Saturday's event. It was down from 202 at Michigan.
Is it now? Do you think that's because of the name? Like, could you think that maybe the Earnhardt name bumped some of that up
to get the NASCAR fans watching? Sure.
And it was also on a NASCAR track. Quinn Motegi is not a big name that right?
Yeah.
But it might. I don't know if this will bring any more viewers in next week. We got another. It seems like they bring in a special star or another racer from a different type of series each week. And this week they're going with Lando Norris, which I'm excited to see how he does at COTA here, because man, he's a great racer, and he's also one of the most for me, like in F1, the way that you view him in F1, he's very, very marketable, and it's good to see. And he really loves iRacing. Like he just always promotes it, and he seems to enjoy being on the service.
And Spa last year, was it him and Verstappen that just dominated Spa?
Yeah, that's the thing. He's going to come in here and kill these guys.
Well, the one thing is I don't know. See, I don't know what his experience is in the IndyCar. We know what his experience is in the things that he strives in, right? Like, he seems to be good in the sports cars. He seems to be good. I think they used the LMP cars, right? I don't know. Like, even if you look at Max Verstappen, he raced the V8s and did really good.
Well, so Spa was in a GT3, which is about as far from an F1 car you can get.
I think you can put him in any car and he's going to run well.
Yeah, he's just good.
Well, I'm sure, he's also a single fella. He's probably got nothing really on the go. He's probably in lockdown, so he can practice a lot too, right?
This is so cool. He's going to go in there and spank those guys. I think he is, because he's a sim car driver as much as he's an F1 driver. And he's on one of the best teams there is, too. And so,
Lando versus the field. What do you put the odds at?
I think he's going to win it.
The only way that if Lando might get taken is if Sage Karam doesn't beat himself.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Sage or Lando.
Well, he can't. Simon
he just keeps building himself. But we've only noticed Simon finished okay in the road courses, but we've noticed him on the oval side more, right?
Well, he's got the wins to back it up.
Does he have road wins?
No, both of them are ovals. but he is a good road racer in real life on the IndyCar side.
He also put out a good article talking about sim racing.
And I haven't totally gone through this article, so I'm going to read a portion of it here, and it's good to have another perspective from someone that, you know, he's done successful in what he's been doing on it, but it also just to because someone asked him, how does it compare to the real world, which is the big question we always ask, right? So what he had put in his article was, to sum it up, I'm really impressed at how accurate today's simulation equipment is. It allows you to train your eyes, your reflexes, and your race skills. I find it beneficial for my driving and for my brain too. You can study the data, compare yourself to your teammates. There's a lot of strategy involved. So it is a very similar approach to real racing. Without iRacing, I would have been worried that my brains weren't as sharp. I don't know why he said brains, but
He said our brains. He's talking about the whole.
Our brains. Okay, that makes sense. Sorry. With so much time off at the moment, but right now my brain is so awake, and I feel like I'm going to be a strong driver when you get back to racing in real life. Which is, you know, is a good point. Like, maybe some of these guys maybe not view iRacing's maybe a training tool. It's just another tool that they can use to train, to keep focus, right?
Just repetitive movement, you know, doing the same thing.
Well, and these tracks are laser scanned. Yeah, if it doesn't feel like a real car, but now he knows the layout and what to look for the most part. And when he gets to the racetrack, his brain is further along for figuring out what he wants to do there. Maybe he learned something in it that he didn't see while he was in the car and can try it in real life. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, every one of the racing series limits the practice and testing that you can do to try to save the team's money. So being able to do it, whether it's on the $1 Million Simulator or just in iRacing, it gives them an advantage that they didn't have before. Even if it's not exactly the same, you can still learn things.
Well, and do you think the one thing I was thinking about this too, with all these influx of pro drivers and out there buying some of these sim things, do you think some of the sim equipment might get even further along because of the exposure, and maybe these drivers offer some, you know, work with a company and figure out, you know, this is what I feel, and they can maybe tune it into something?
I think they already had drivers working on that level. Didn't they have some pro drivers really helping the VRS guys develop their direct drive?
Like I agree with that, but I'm thinking, like, you know, like even if you had like say Kyle Busch seems to me would be the guy that would work with a company just to try and get his setup the best he could have, right? He just seems so focused in on doing that.
Yeah. And don't forget, Junior was a major tester with iRacing all the way back to the early days.
Well, I think Denny was talking about, I think it was not last week or the week before, that he was getting updates to his SimCraft rig, kind of referring to, you know, they were making adjustments, you know, based on what he was wanting, and they were changing stuff. All right, let's keep moving. Fox Wednesday, they had their Wednesday racing on Fox Sports. Will Power was in the rig in the studio this week. He was pretty terrible in both races. He did blame that rig for his performance. But first, what a idea. Trophy trucks at Wild West Motorsports. And it was iRacer Ronnie Anderson who dominated. Scott Speed, Travis Pastrana, Ron Capps, all in the race, did well. And it was a really fun race to watch. Boyer was very vocal at the end of the race that the track was just getting broken in and he wanted to see more racing. But after commercial break, they switched to late model IROC style at Daytona. So they were late model cars, but painted like the old-fashioned IROC that they used to have. And it was Harvick and Ferrucci from the IndyCar series. They were hooked up the whole race and were fun to watch. Scott Speed won with Harvick second and Bobby Labonte third.
That's again another one of the really neat things that's coming out of this is that we're getting so many cross disciplines, getting to guys that you probably would never get to see race together are getting to do it again.
Right, Harvick and IndyCar driver for Rucci and Labonte. I mean, what a mix. And but yeah, I saw part of this on my phone. I was working, but I was kind of peeking at it. It was interesting. Chris said that he watched it and was thoroughly entertained. Is what he told me. So.
Something I really thought we would never actually get to do because the guy is just always so busy. He's putting in so many hours. I never thought we'd actually get an interview with the iRacing flagman.
Okay, how's that work?
Well, there's an article actually on NASCAR.com. You can go check it out. We got the link. And NASCAR Sasm, however you pronounce his name, has a nice little entertaining interview with NASCAR flagman. And you just have to go read it. I'm not going to give you too many hints, but it's hilarious.
Well, if you think about it, he's watched 2.8 billion laps in iRacing.
I wonder how many shoulder replacement surgeries he's already had to have.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm going to give you one example question here. I'm just going to pick one. He says, does he condition physically? Yes. In order to practice his signature flag-waving motion, he allows a mad possum to bite down on his hand, and then he throws his arm up and down wildly until it releases its grip. Okay.
The one about does he have children is pretty good as well. But just go check it out. It was very clever, very creative. And speaking of just moving on, more things. I hinted at this a little bit earlier, but Steve Myers went on MRN. I forget what the name of the specific broadcast was.
It's NASCAR Live.
NASCAR Live, that's right. With Mike Bagley, turn announcer for MRN and host of the morning drive on Sirius XM. And it was a great interview. It's going to be a lot of the same information that we've already heard before, but some of the new information as he gets into specifically how the broadcast came together as quickly as it did as the COVID situation developed. And he gives you a little bit of behind the scenes on how they're handling the broadcast now, who's doing the video and who's handling the replays and the overlays and such. It's a good listen.
It is, and he even talks about how it all got started. He said he talked about that he got a call Thursday night before the Atlanta race got canceled from Dale Jr. that Jeff Gordon was looking for his contact information because they really wanted to get something going on TV. So if you remember back to that Thursday before the Atlanta race, there were a lot of unknowns. I think that was when they announced, hey, we're going to run the race, but with no fans. And then I think it was the next day that they canceled it altogether.
And I really feel like some of our members were pretty prophetic because before anybody had announced it, like literally as soon as they said they were canceling the race, maybe it was Bobby, maybe it was you, but one of you all jumped in immediately and said they should just run it on iRacing. And they were thinking the same thing at the same time.
Yeah. Another tidbit was Mark Smith, the producer in Charlotte, is calling up to Drew Adamson in Boston what shots they're looking for over TeamSpeak. And then everybody else is remote. There's only 2 guys that are actually in the broadcast room. We've heard that before. Pretty cool how it works. It was a good listen to NASCAR Live. They have a weekly podcast. Moving on, we found another video this week where they do the split screen with the real lap in the race car as well as the iRacing lap in the race car. This time the Ford GTE. And iRacing put out this video, and boy, it's kind of hard to tell which one's the real one and which one's not.
They need to put bug splatters on the screen in iRacing, and then it'll be even more real.
They do have bug splatters. You don't ever notice those pop up on your screen?
It's not bug splatters. It's the tire
like
rubber.
Yeah.
Like you mean like an actual bug
I'm just
splatter
like
you
if
see
you
on
look in the bottom one here, those
You
are
can see
those are bug splatters.
Yeah, that'd be a nice to have, wouldn't it?
But this video for 1-to-1, it doesn't beat much. You can't get much better and more accurate than that, can you?
Well, it's really easy to tell when you look at the landmarks, the stuff around the track, and how they match up.
Do you notice at one point there's a grandstand that's in the track on iRacing?
Yeah,
but
we
it's
just
not.
passed it.
Yeah, and it's not in the actual one. I wonder if it's old or they took it down a bit later on, or it's not a permanent one. It's a temporary one.
Yeah.
It's either temporary or most of the tracks have been taking stands out because attendance has been down.
Could you imagine building a track and then taking stuff out? Like the cost that it just would feel like a waste, right?
You mean like taking the entire back stretch out of Daytona?
Yeah, true.
Okay, let's keep moving.
So we go on to, I'm guessing this is a problem that we obviously know what happens on changeover days, what they're I'm guessing this is where this is kind of kicking off from, right, Mike? It's basically at, 8 o'clock Eastern is when it changes over. And this guy's talking about that Silverstone is the next track that they want to, it was Silverstone the week before, and Suzuka is the next track. But if you want to watch that person that's racing at that 8 o'clock one, you can't watch it if you don't own the track. But if you own the Suzuka track, it's confusing how he wrote it here. But basically, you have to, if you don't own a track and the week switches over to the next one, and you want to spectate for somebody or crew chief, and you don't have the previous week's track and it doesn't show up, it's been a problem. I guess somebody's been pointing out here.
You can't do it, yeah. You have to buy the other track even though you don't want to.
Yeah, so basically they're saying that they need to create a bug report for it so that they can kind of fix that thing. It doesn't seem like it's a thing up in their want to fix list right now. It's a small sample size of something that's happening.
How often is that going to happen?
Well, it happens basically once a week if you don't own the previous track, because it's only when it's switching over.
If you want to spectate that
first track.
Particular session.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll let that go probably.
So we're gonna skip this other one here that we had on here. You don't need that one, David. Which kind of brings me to this. If you're thinking about this whole problem here about skipping from a session at the beginning of the week, they had another idea here. This Derek McNeil had a really cool idea about having a crew chief option for an extra account. So say, what's the normal monthly subscription rate? Like it's like $15.
$7 to $10.
Or is that what it is?
Depending on if you do yearly or monthly.
Okay, so say maybe you take it and add another half of what a subscription cost is to add to your account. So bring it say it was 7, bring it to 15. What he's saying is that you can have a second login, so you can have somebody can have access to all the cars and tracks, but to spot and be a crew chief at the extra cost all the time. And David Tucker was kind of from iRacing thought this was a good idea, so that helps get family members and things involved, so that you can do it. I think he's doing it so that you can do it from another computer as well, right? That's what they're saying, if they're from another account, right?
Well, I think the idea is, have a second account that is not drivable, and it doesn't cost as much.
See, when I read this, my mind went straight through just streamers, because then you could have the replay in your stream.
Right.
Going, how you were asking about that live view, Mike? That's how this would be the way to do it. Instead of buying a whole full second account, buying all the tracks, just pay a little bit more in your subscription cost to have that option. Because you could even call this as like a streamer option.
Right. Like a secondary account that's not drivable, and use it for crew chief or spotting or streaming, or any of the above, anything but actually driving.
And ultimately, it all comes down to there's people who are already going ahead and streamers that go ahead and pay for a second account. I don't, and probably won't if I have to buy an entire completely new account. But if they added this kind of option, I would consider it.
I would consider paying more too, just to have the live camera view.
Like if it was half price or something, a normal subscription, why not? It might drive revenue too.
Like you could have even options. Like he's talking about the spotter here. Like I said, you could have just a streamer one, like guys that are just wanting to use it for the replay option.
Or if this whole, real racing, iRacing continues kind of thing, maybe it's an option for fans. Hey, you want to watch the Sunday NASCAR race, but you want to get on the sim and like drive the cameras yourself? You could log in for only $4.95, and ride shotgun with Dale Jr.
Now I will throw in a little caveat to that. I got done racing whatever race I was racing Sunday late, or I don't remember why, but I got back and only caught the second half of the race. And I tried to actually go in and spectate it, and it sent me back a message saying all spectator slots were full.
Right, so they'd have to fix that. But I mean, that's an opportunity. I mean, I would think for iRacing, if they could somehow make some kind of view-only account that's not drivable. Okay, let's talk about our very own Adam Jocelyn. He shows them what's up when he entered into this week a local or a regional race. It was an iRace, but it was for the regional people up in the Northeast where he's from.
It was basically was it a late model? I forget which. I think
it was late or super late.
Yeah, super late. It was a race for just main drivers that have real racing experience, and Adam has run once or twice up there on one of the tracks as well. He mostly does crew work for a real racing team up there, but he qualified because he has real racing experience. And this was a charity race for a driver that's recently passed away up in the area. So it was main drivers only. And there's a full article. It actually got coverage in what I'm guessing it's called the Sun Journal. I'm assuming it's a local media outlet somewhere up in Maine, covering the entire event. It's a great read. Though I didn't have time to go into detail on it.
They didn't mention Adam.
It didn't mention Adam, which is odd because I'm pretty sure I remember Adam saying he came in P2.
Yeah, P2, man. Good job, Adam.
So, but they raised quite a bit of money, I guess, for his family.
All right, very cool. I know Adam was very excited about doing well in that. In fact, I think he was really pumped that night. I mean, yeah, he couldn't sleep and whatnot. Next up is a video by iRacing. It's the worst from April, the not top 10. And man, I love these videos because they're hilarious. Some of the action in these. I mean, which one's your favorite?
Right? The thing with these is it's you just never know what's going to come up for the week, right? Like what races have been going on, what laps have been doing. I always like the present. The music is what got me, but the one that actually got me was the first one. Remembering it now is the two teammates that wrecked out at the 12 Hours of Bathurst, taking out your own teammate.
Right. I love number 8.
That one's the NASCAR one, right?
That's where there's two cars going side by side with just a gap between them, going really slow, like 15 mile an hour at Michigan. And another guy comes at speed going 180, and he goes right in between them.
I want to know how many times they did that to try and make that video.
Well,
because I don't think
they got it perfect that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fun to watch because, like you said, you don't know what to expect when it comes on. You're like, whoa, I didn't expect that. And then there was one where the cars are like flying through the air and land, and yeah, crazy.
some pretty wild stuff that can happen in there. Getting a little bit back to the serious note, there is an article on CNET, which is really a technology website that's been a good place to go to look for basically anything you want to know if you're into technology, not just PCs, but just about anything that has circuitry in it. And it's a bunch of racing tips from several pro racing drivers, including Parker Kligerman. And it gives you details about sticking with it, how long to practice before you go in to try a race. A lot of good information on here.
Yeah, 4 different pro drivers. They all give their own individual answers to the questions. It's kind of a neat, long interview article.
It's really, it looks like it's really well done with the, I like how they all give their different perspective, but I also like how they've mixed it up with some of the imaging and different aspects of the way they presented it in the article here.
Yeah, it's easy to read. Yeah.
One of the good questions that a lot of new guys coming into the service will ask is, how important is a good car setups, and should newbies just stick with baselines or immediately start fiddling around? Now, I spent probably, especially on the iRacing side, years just doing fixed setup, and didn't really start to compete in open until I joined with you guys and started to feel confident that I would have good sets to run.
Now, you saying that, so David, what would for a new driver coming into, what would your answer be for that? And I'm going to ask Mike and Tom that as well, and I'll give my answer as well.
I would go with fixed, or maybe in some of the lower end open races, there's a lot of good setups that you can find either on some of the online communities that are giving them out, or VRS that you can run with. That'll give you a really good baseline set to run with as well. And I still don't know how to adjust a road car at all, so I'm pretty much stuck with a VRS set or something somebody gives me. So I would say fixed, or get you a good reliable source of a set that you're going to feel comfortable riding.
Tom, what would you say?
My brother just started a couple weeks ago. I have just running fixed races right now, so we can get used to speed with everybody and racecraft. So I'd say stick with fixed for a while to get comfortable with the car and then go.
Yeah,
Tommy,
you're fading out a little bit.
Is that a little bit better?
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Yeah, so I'd say stick with the fixed for a while till you get used to, especially in the oval side, to get used to how the car goes and what you need the car to do before going to open setup.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't want to jump to open setups till you know racecraft and what's tight and loose and that kind of thing. What happens on a fuel run, a tire run, that kind of thing. I think my thing with the setups is, I saw this question on Facebook this week. Somebody on some new guy was like, "Hey, I want to, get a crew chief for Road to Pro. I need somebody to help me with setups." And I told him, "You're asking the wrong question. You're not going to find a crew chief to help you run Road to Pro. What you need to do is get on a team. And by being on a team of people, and if there's enough people, the crew chiefing stuff and learning how to set up stuff will come naturally from being part of a team. You can get a spotter and a crew chief by being involved with the team, and that's the route to go. So instead of asking for a crew chief, see if you can get recruited onto a team."
Well, and one of the things that's really the biggest thing, Mike, is find people that you're running with a lot, that you want to be around. Start off fixed racing, get used to driving it. The rookie series does that anyways. The thing I did over the years, and I've been around for almost 11 years on iRacing, and iRacing's evolved a lot, so they don't get the same scale of coming up the way that they used to, but focus on a discipline if you want to race. So if you want to run the oval side, get in a car and run it for a while. You can run open sets. There's a lot of sets out there. Run a set that you find feels right for you, and go into a practice session for a couple hours and move the track bar and see what it feels like to you. Find something that adjusts where it likes, that you like the changes on it, that makes it feel comfortable for you. Drive a comfortable car first. Don't drive a fast set. Drive a comfortable set. That's what you need to learn when you first start racing and iRacing. Don't go on these forum pages asking for the fastest sets, because the fastest sets take a lot of skill to drive. Some of them. A lot of them are really loose. Like, you can even have, like, even grabbing someone else's set. David and I are two different drivers. We run the same set sometimes, different ways, or do different adjustments to it. David likes a loose set. I'm more of a comfortable driver. Mike drives probably more like myself. You're going to have different guys where you'll find that you can race your sets with, but you need to focus on driving a comfortable set first before you can start feeling right to drive those faster setups. But Mike's right, though. Don't start asking for crew chiefs and things like that. Find people that you are willing to give you little knowledge here. We used to have John Hammer was really good for that. He'd give you a little when he'd always give you some little advice. We take one thing here, one thing there, and you add it to your repertoire over the years. I used to know a lot more about setups than I do now. I've lost touch on that, but you need to have something that's comfortable to start with, and I have a feeling that's lost in a lot of these guys right now. They just want to be fast.
Yep, let's get to that Pro Series, right? All right, we got a BOP announcement.
Yeah, everybody always wants to have the fastest car in the multi-sports car races, multi-class races. And so iRacing is constantly playing the same kind of balance of power game that NASCAR used to have back in the 70s and 80s. And the most recent updates have some weight changes. They've added 20 kilograms to the Audi, added
Audi
10
must
to the
have kept
BMW.
going to McDonald's.
The Ferraris also added another 10 kilograms, and they left the Mercedes the same. That's interesting because generally, at least for me, the Mercedes tends to be the most popular GT3 to drive, and the Audi is historically really challenging. But they have a whole bunch of different things that they use to calculate this I'm sure they use a lot of telemetry as well as advice from some of the guys who run the series regularly.
So I thought at some point, didn't they say they weren't going to announce these things anymore, or at least the specifics?
They announced they weren't going to announce it anymore.
Right.
I don't recall
I think
that.
they forgot.
I've never seen iRacing contradict what they're saying.
I don't recall them saying that. They did say they weren't going to really make any more GT3s.
No, they said that they were. Mike's right. They did say that they weren't going to announce it because people would start. They were afraid that people were going to start jumping from car to car. Was that not what it was?
Right.
Let people pick their car instead of trying to pick. It's the same thing we were saying there. Setups. Now you're picking. They're going to have more sales on a Mercedes now this week because it might be better, right? If they find out it's better.
Well, I don't know about everybody, but when they nerfed the Porsche 919 a couple weeks ago, after the patch, I didn't read the patch notes. I just jumped on to run a Le Mans race that morning, and I could tell immediately that the battery was behaving differently. Now that's something where I'm seeing a number on my dashboard that's not recharging as fast, but you'll pick up some of these changes. The cars will feel different, so people are going to find out whether they stealth it or don't.
This is for the new Nürburgring 24 hours, which runs Saturday.
That 20 kilograms is a big increase on a car.
Yep. So, moving back to the stock car world, how can you drive like a pro, Greg?
Well, and this is another tip that I could have for anybody that is new to the racing. There's a lot of videos out there of guys giving their expert opinion on how they race. And Landon Castle tweeted on his page after his top 5 on Sunday in the Pro Invitational. He decided to break down his race from Richmond, which I like to see this because his insight on how he did things in the race was, it was very strategical. It's good to see how someone else's processes a race, right? Like, what did you guys think of how he was trying to set people up for passes and how he viewed how he was racing there?
I love this, and the telemetry that he goes through toward the end of the video, where he's looking at the graphs and the different lines of the throttle and brake and steering input.
That's the other thing. Like, I'm not going to plug this too hard, but VRS is a very good tool, and David's uses it a lot for the roadside. But there is stuff in there that can give you base telemetry in their fairly small price cost, and they're also stable sets to race from. There is options out there. Yes, if you don't want to pay, there is other options, but the telemetry part where you're trying to understand how, like, on a team like ours, I can see how David's driving compared to my driving at a certain track. Like, telemetry, that stuff helps you understand what you're doing wrong or what the car's doing that you can't make, that you need to make it better, things like that.
And if you start to really get into setup building, the telemetry can even help you see if the car's bottoming out and what it's doing as far as the rake. It's basically gives you all the same information that the workbook called Motec does.
Pretty cool video by Landon Castle. Definitely check his channel on YouTube. He only has 73 subscribers.
I'm really glad to see someone like right now, a guy like Landon Castle and his personality. You don't see it in NASCAR because you just don't get this kind of perspective with him. But his personality, some of these personalities, they're going to get more exposure, and it might help them in their career further after this. So I like to see someone help the other fellow iRacers, fans, even people that want to watch his page, just understand what goes into racing.
Think about it. He's not full-time this year. He got parked. He doesn't have a ride. And without the coronavirus and this iRacing stuff and everything, we wouldn't be hearing from, Landon Castle. But here he is. He's got a sponsor. He's got Blue Emu everywhere. Everywhere all over this video. And he's giving them exposure, and he's probably getting a paycheck and making a living using iRacing. Pretty cool.
You never turn down an opportunity.
And he's taken it. He wasn't even invited to the event in Richmond. He had to qualify in the heat race, and he did. So, pretty cool, Landon. Good job. Next up, a listener shout-out, Michael Miner. Thanks, Michael. In the forums, he said, "Hey, want to thank you guys for the podcast. Keeps me entertained while I'm by myself at work, mowing the grass for hours on end, waxing the hallways, or anything else I have to do." Thanks, Mike, for the shout-out.
Look out for that bush, Mike. Look out for it. All right, so my favorite time of the year for racing the Indy cars is coming up. What do you guys think? The Indianapolis 500, virtual Indianapolis 500, both the fixed and open, they've announced the time slots and all the parameters for it. Are you guys excited for Indy?
Yeah.
You're never an IndyCar guy, are you, Mike?
No, but they announced the fixed. Now, it's got different dates, though. So the fixed is May 8th through the 10th, and then the open is 15th through the 17th.
So the May 8th is closer to the actual holiday weekend that they race it on, right? And then...
Well, Memorial Weekend's the last weekend of May.
Yeah, but they always race it 1 week prior.
Right.
They do the special events. So we'll just go through this quickly. So the fixed one has 4 time slots. I'll do all the Eastern times. So it's Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, which would be the 8th, right? Yes, the 8th. The 9th, Saturday at 9 p.m. or a.m. Sorry, and then Saturday at 1 p.m. on the 9th, and then Sunday on the 10th will be at 9 a.m. It's obviously 200 laps, 500 miles, 30-minute warm-up beforehand. Field size of 33. It's obviously in the Dallara.
Now remember, splits are by qualifying, which is a unique thing in iRacing.
If I remember correctly, I don't think I ever qualified for this race. But anyways, then on to the open one, which is the one that I'm looking forward to, because that's the one where you need to be in to not lose the car with wearing that right front out. Anyways, so time slots, this is from the 15th to the 17th. It does Friday night, 9 p.m. on the 15th. Then Saturday, they have the 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern slot for the 16th of May. And then Sunday of the 17th of May is at 9 a.m. again. This is all open up for license level D 4.0 oval. Once again, 33 car field. There isn't an incident limit, which I don't think it matters, because if you wreck those cars, you're done anyways.
All right.
I am so looking forward to that.
Open or fixed?
Both, but more probably the open one. Won two of them last year out of the 4.
They're doing it 2 weeks in a row. Like they're doing a fixed and an open.
And we also have a Pacific Majors version as well.
Yep, we'll have the major, so I'll use that as testing for the setup.
So a little bit of somber news. A frequent viewer of my stream, actually, and a former guest of the podcast, Dave Cam. His wife has tested positive for COVID. She is a frontline nurse, and he announced that she tested positive today, which I don't know when the tweet actually came out, but it was sometime this week. And we'd like to know that we'd like him to know that our thoughts are with him, and I'm going to be optimistic and hope that she's somebody who is not very symptomatic.
I feel this kind of hits to the point where she goes to work not having a choice, and it sucks, and it's really it's unfortunate that she's trying to help out and be, do her job, and she's put into this situation every day, single day, and I feel for them. I hope everything comes through, or everything helps, like Dave was saying, that she's one of those ones that, asymptomatic or, has very, very less symptoms from it. So, Dave, we're all thinking of you and your wife, and hope everything turns out okay.
Yep.
And we had another listener pitch in based on some of our discussion last week, talking about keeping TeamSpeak out of OBS. And he mentioned that he used to do it, but he has some guys now that are usually generally quiet during the races. And you can check the script out if you like. I'm not going to go ahead and read the whole list, but there's information on here on how you can just do it directly through Windows, and you don't even have to use virtual audio cable. So we have a list of links in here on how you can isolate certain sounds from going into your stream.
Yeah, and I got this on my to-do list, David, because I still need to fix this. I still have TeamSpeak in my stream, and I didn't want to do the virtual audio cable just because I've had personal challenges with that in the past, and it can mess up your Windows.
I think we have and I know, like he's saying here, he has people that don't talk much on the chat because of maybe having this. So, I'm trying to take my chat out so that our team members don't feel like they're having to, keep what they're saying away from it too, right?
Yeah. And so I'm going to work on this maybe tonight and watch this video. There's a YouTube video. We have a link to it that shows how to do it, apparently, without using any of that other software. So thanks to our listener, John Jarrett, for sending that in.
Yeah, just to piggyback off this, if any of you guys, if we're talking about something in here, and we're not obviously experts on anything here, we're just all opinions and stuff that we read. So if you have anything that's helpful like this when we're trying to, we'll get that out to our listeners so that, they can, something that is simple as this, like we can go through videos and figure things out, because this is going to help Mike and I, and I don't know how, and after all these things that have gone on in watching NASCAR, some of this, I'm sure there's a lot of Twitch streamers that want to see this too, and YouTube.
Speaking of which, I don't think I said his name. Thank you, John Jarrett, for sending us that information.
And one other thing that got one of our last things here, we're going to go through the patch notes that happened today, which almost made me miss the 3 o'clock NIS race, which I wish it might have had to because of the way I felt from that. But anyways, it was a minor patches. This would be to do some fixes on the Ford GT, the Lara, some of the bunch of cars, there's some tracks changes for upcoming weeks. It looks like for Talladega and Dover for the next two Pro Series races, and just some AI fixes.
Oh, you can also disrupt or turn off the vibration motors on the Fanatec pedals now in the app INI.
Okay, and then they're also Lime Rock. The Grand Prix is now available on AI racing. So the Grand Prix track.
Oh, the version,
the layout,
of the Lime Rock. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's basically just a minor patch. It's almost pretty much the same type of patch we see every week with the at least the track wise is just the advertisements and some of the stuff.
Well, Talladega and Dover had updates, and Talladega is this weekend, so.
Yeah, I'm liking, even though it's equaling some downtime, I'm liking the fact that all of the tracks are getting fresh sponsorship since it's going on TV.
Right, and they wouldn't otherwise if this wasn't being televised and all that. I'm sure we wouldn't be getting these updates.
Do you think it's hurting any of the updates coming up, like the major ones, with them going through this? Like they're diverting, obviously, some resources to doing it.
Maybe. But like you said, though, it needs to be done. It's good that they're updating it. So, all right, let's keep moving. Let's go into housekeeping. Show notes. Remember, we have links to everything, guys. So check out the show notes. There's a link in the description of the podcast where you can get it. And don't forget to share the podcast to all the new drivers out there. If you're in an iRacing race, key up at the beginning and say, hey, you guys check out the iRacers Lounge, and let's get everybody at least to know about it. You know, they don't need to listen to it, but let's just make sure everybody's aware. There are so many new drivers out there. Let's get them involved, guys. So I appreciate the listeners helping with that. Don't forget, we're on the Performance Motorsports Network over there in regular rotation. I don't know how many times they're playing our show a week, but they definitely have us on, I think, almost daily.
Also, I keep forgetting to add this to our podcast housekeeping notes, but leave reviews and stuff for Apple. Leave a review about the podcast. I guess from what I've been reading, it obviously helps the algorithm and moves our listing of where our podcast is around, so that it can be brought up on main pages if you're looking for certain things like under racing or whatever. So if you leave a review for us, just to help us out, bring us up further for more eyes.
And there you go, hardware, software.
Not now.
So in the interest of time, we're going to hit a few of these guys. I'm going to jump through them. So Greg, start off with the spotter pack one.
This one's kind of exciting because I kind of, I'm guessing, obviously they're releasing a beta for a new spotter pack coming out. Is it the Dale Jr. spotter pack is what they're calling it? A new one for it, but it looks like it's got a whole bunch of options for different spotters and crew chiefs to put in it. So it'll be, looks like it's going to be one of the bigger updates that he's going to have a spotter pack for.
Yeah, and so there's a graphic that indicates that you can pick amongst the various crew chiefs, Chad Knaus, Todd Gordon, Mike Bugowitz, Adam Stevens, Rodney Childers, Paul Wolfe, Cole Pern, or Alan Gustafson. And then the spotter list is also just as impressive. Brent Griffin, Clayton Hughes, Tad Boyd, TJ Majors, Joey Meyer, Tim Fedowa, or Eddie DeHaan.
Now, which Which spotter pack? What would you pick for your crew chief and your spotter in that of those options there, Mike?
Well, you got to go with Cole Pern, I would think, for the crew
Good
chief.
old Canadian Cole Pern.
Yeah, and then Brett Griffin. You know, how are you going to go wrong with him? Or my favorite, maybe Joey Meyer. I'd probably pick Joey Meyer.
I'd like the old Paul Wolf, TJ Majors, but I guess we're used to TJ Majors spotter packs on here, right?
Right.
Well, was it Jimmy Johnson that fired him, or was that Dell?
That Knaus was Johnson's.
No, spotter. One of the spotters wasn't cleared him when he wasn't clear.
Oh yeah,
the virtual spotter. And then TJ griped about it on jokingly on his.
No, it was some I can picture his name, but anyways, he was talking about it in his podcast. I know which one you're talking about, Mike.
All right. In the interest of time, we're going to do one more hardware story. The one that we're going to do is, I lost it, just a minute. Oh, the head motion one. I sent this last night, I think, or earlier today. What did you guys think of this? It's by Frex, and they put up on their Instagram something that they're working on here, and it's the most craziest thing you've ever seen. He's in the cockpit, he's racing, and he's got a thing that's behind the seat, behind his head, that moves left to right, okay? And it's got like string or rope attached to it. And the rope goes over to a pulley system that's on the left or right side of his head. And the pulley system, the rope hooks to the side of your head, or to your VR, so to speak, and it literally pulls your head to the left or the right, depending on, you know, if you're turning left or right on the sim. And so it's a motion, what they call Frex head motion.
I watched this video and I immediately thought, man, I already have one of these. It's called having two girls, one pulling on one arm, one pulling on the other, and trying to pull you in different directions. It sort of reminds me of it, just pulling you in different directions. Like, it's such an odd concept. I wonder what it would feel like, but your neck muscles would take a beating.
So if it came with an emergency stop button, kind of like the Fanatec direct drive wheels do, would it do you any good?
Might be too late if it's ripping your neck off. That's what I was thinking. If something went wrong, you know?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that would be a problem, eh? What if it started pulling? Yeah.
Yeah, you'd need some kind of quick breakaway or something for safety, but... yeah, there's a lot of little things about this. It says very safety and effective way to feel realistic sway G-force in the corners.
Any streamers that use that might be sponsored by a chiropractor.
I was going to say, obviously the unit is just a test unit there that they're showing. I'd hope that the back isn't open like that, because that is a huge... I mean, you know when somebody comes up behind you and rests their hand on the sim watching something? Imagine if their hand sits there.
Get their fingers cut off and the little sim head movement thingy. Yeah, great. All right, and with that, we're going to move into results. Let's finish up NASCAR iRacing Series.
Do we have
Richmond. Yeah, because Friday Open, guess what? Tom and I both got P5. Tom, tell us about your race.
Yeah, had a pretty good run. Ran in top 10, 15 most of the time. Had a little bit of damage. Unfortunately, the last run was 50 laps. Didn't have a great tire cut, so only finished P5.
Yeah, and I also got a P5. Ran 10 to 15 for a while and got caught up in a wreck. Had a little over a minute damage. Fell to the back, but eventually got my track position back and got a nice top 5. Man, I'll take it. I was so happy to get that top 5. All right, and then Tony Rochette got wrecked out by a lapper this time. The yellow came out and he got loose on the outside. And who else ran on Friday? David, how about you? P18.
Yeah, I guess you couldn't hear me when I stepped
Your
in.
music was too loud. I had to pretty much just turn it off, so sorry about that.
All right, we'll get that figured out at some point. P18, yeah, I had an over-aggressive driver just hit me twice on lap 3. He rear ends me, shoves me into the car in front of me, and then the very next corner comes down and just hooks me to the left. So Richmond was a rough week for me.
Ooh, iRacing is down right now.
Ooh, unexpectedly, huh?
It says service unavailable. Go test now.
Okay. So, man, I can't, just to reiterate, I can't believe I was so happy with that top 5. In fact, that means I didn't even run Sunday morning. I slept in. How'd you guys run? David, you got P20.
Same thing. This is one where I just got two guys wrecked on the outside of me on the white flag lap. I was running top 5, but just got caught up in hard racing at the end in this one.
I'm just gonna list all the 4 last results because they all have the same ending. Wrecked. I wrecked myself.
Dang. Okay, well that makes it easy, Greg. Tony Rochette put down, got wrecked out 3 for 3. It was a decent, but he's on his way back down to the bottom split, he said.
And that result that's listed for you has got to be somebody else because you didn't run Sunday morning.
No, that was Sunday fixed, I think, is what that's supposed to be. P28, get caught up in other people's messes that weren't my doing. In fact, one incident, the guy turned me going down the straight. He just flat turned left. I had to do a stop and go with 20 incidents. But yeah, that poor guy, I think he said that something went wrong with his wheel or his shifter. No, his shifter, he missed a shift or something, and the car just turned left, and it just hooked me. So yeah, and you know, my fixed results have been horrible this year. I have not had a decent finish in fixed, I don't think, yet. So it just has not gone well. All right, let's switch to Talladega. Wednesday fixed. Tony Rochette, P8, ran up front, avoiding wrecks. Entered the pits a little hot, caused a 40-second hold on green flag run. Got clipped on the second to last restart, had nothing for the draft in the last restart. Tom, P5, nice run.
Yeah, top 5. Made a stupid mistake on the last yellow flag stop. I accidentally clicked the fuel off when I was clicking tires off. Had to go back to 22nd spot and work my way back up, of course, on the high side. So top 5, I was happy with that.
And doesn't that irritate you when you do something stupid like a check mark and that just ruins the whole race?
Yeah, and then I even came on the radio, go, let's see if I'm actually as good as I think I am.
Well, you got back up there. But what would have happened if you hadn't had the penalty? That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, probably a
The
beer,
butterfly
right?
effect.
All right, let's go on to Wednesday Open. David wrecked.
Yes, I was running in the lead pack, and it just made a move to the outside, and former teammate and still friend Craig Sykes was giving me a good push. We were about to take the lead, and the inside leader decides to throw a block like he's Brad Keselowski or something, and but he threw the block too late, and it caused a big wreck and destroyed me. He did apologize for it, so you know it's over with. It's just like the real racers have made the same kind of mistakes. So it was definitely frustrating though because I had a shot at winning it.
Yeah, my race, I also got wrecked by a former teammate that I'm not friends with on the straightaway on the back stretch. It was one of those deals. Everybody's been in this situation where everybody's lined up on the bottom. You're pushing down the back. There's nowhere to go. and you're right behind the guy in front of you, and the guy behind you is trying to push you into him. Well, that's exactly what happened. This guy was trying to push me. There was nowhere to go, and it clipped my bumper and hooked me and sent me to the wall and couldn't finish the race. I was not happy. Tom, you also wrecked out.
Yeah, I got involved in a same crash with Greg up there, and it happens. Happened up the front. Couldn't really miss it.
Now, you guys went pretty far into the race before wrecking out, right?
That wreck was... Okay, this wreck was a guy that decided there was like probably a 5-car breakaway in front of us, and it got a little bit of a gap, and he decided to go... I don't know what he was doing. He was on the top lane, or he moved from the center to the top because the top had a run, and it was on the backstretch down the straightaway. Went to the wall to try and block it, and then shot down right into front of my lane. And I probably was going about 10 miles an hour faster, coming towards his back bumper. So I moved a bit, and he moved, and I turned him, and there was a guy beside me already, and it just, I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if he was trying to block both lines, thinking he was doing like what they actually do, trying to hold the momentum off both, or what, but he wrecked a lot of good race cars.
Yeah, that car that was beside you was me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I always hate getting into it with a teammate.
It was a tough night for, I think, everybody in the race last night got wrecked out there, and I think Tony was the only one left near the end there. Tony Rochette got a P9, but he was in position to win. He was running P3 on the green-white checker. I was jumped into spot for him near the end of the race. He said, stayed out of trouble. Mike hopped into spot. Man, we were bobbing and weaving and leading till the last lap. A car behind tried going where there was no room between me and the car on the outside, and it wrecked him and everybody. But it was fun, and he was in position to win. I was just coaching him and telling him, what to try to do, to not to try to do, and just tell him which lane to get in, and just spotting. Chris was also watching, and we almost got Tony a win. I've been trying so hard to help him get there, but he'll get one this week if it goes well. And then, David, you're showing us that you're the leader of the team. You won the Thursday Open. Congratulations.
Yeah, P1. Kind of figured out this plate racing thing, I guess. I actually loaded the wrong set.
Can you help me?
Well, really, the strategy for me is stay as far forward as I can, just because I feel like that's the best bet. And that we have this debate every time we come to a plate race. Do you drop to the back, or do you not qualify? Do you qualify? And I really try this everywhere, but especially at plate races. I'll just try to stay as far forward as I can. I don't have to lead, but the more cars are behind me, the better chance I have of that wreck happening behind me. So that's the strategy I take. But I actually loaded the wrong set in this race. I loaded the old Daytona set that I had been running earlier in the week until we got one that was way better. And so this one I had learned wasn't as trimmed out as well and wouldn't lead very well. So I was basically consigned to just try to push to the lead and ride behind somebody because I didn't think I had enough car to really make aggressive moves. But on the last caution, we were right on the edge of the pit window, and the leader went ahead and decided he didn't think he was going to make it. I saved enough fuel, restarted from the lead, and held the low line the whole stint. A couple of times the outside line got really good runs, but the outside pusher on the white flag lap blew up.
Bingo.
And then boom, at that point there was no catching me.
Yeah, the strategy of staying up front, I think, is solid. It worked for you. Yeah, good win. That's a third this year, I believe.
Third this year, fifth NIS over the last 2 years.
Yeah, good job, man. And you are getting it done on the plate tracks. I think you, in the last several plate races, David, over the last year or so, your results are speaking for themselves.
And I feel like most of the drivers are around me they can trust me to stay on the low line or the high line, and they can trust me to push or be pushed and not make huge mistakes.
Yep. And then, Tom, you ran P25.
Yeah, I got involved in a crash with 10 to go while I was sitting in the top 5. Car from the inside decided he wanted the middle lane going through the tri-oval, and unfortunately I was already there. So happens. We'll look forward to Friday night.
And then I think Bobby Jonas ran. He said led a few laps and then got wrecked out. All right, let's keep moving. Let's talk Road to Pro. We did run that as well. Tony Rochette, P15. First actual Road to Pro finish without being wrecked. The first race with his new Fanatec oval rim that he just got, which I love, by the way. It has the NASCAR colors up on the top of it.
Same rim I run.
Yeah. He said he wasn't used to it, or the track, his bumps kept putting him in the wall. I got P16. I was garbage on old tires. I mean, the worst in the entire split.
I killed your first run, though.
Well, I fell to dead last on the first run. I think I was as high as 9th. And then blew a tire coming to lap 36. And I think after that I got better. I was just able to not run the tires off. Or maybe because rubber was down.
Rubber didn't.
Yeah. The no late cautions hurt me. The long green runs hurt me because I can't save tires. I just can't.
Well, and I was in the same race as you, Mike, and I was running in the top 10. I pitted early, and a couple laps early because I felt the right front going too. I pushed it a little hard trying to chase down some guys, and I realized I was at 12% on my right front when I went into the pits. But then I came out and I was making up time, and it was green flag pit stops, and I'm so shocked at how bad my luck is. This guy, he missed pit road. He locked it up, missed pit road, and then he did exactly what you're supposed to do, to the point where, okay, if you're not going to make pit road, stay on the inside and get going again and come around for another lap, right? Well, I don't know what he did, but he gassed it up on 40 plus old lap tires, and you know what it's like on restarts there as it is. And he was right at the tri-oval, and he turned it across in front of like 6 of us, and I was the first car there. And I squared him up straight in the door, and I was like, how bad is my luck when I was running perfectly well and this guy did that? And I think I was more mad of my bad luck than I was this guy. Like, he didn't say anything, didn't apologize, didn't text anything. He just left the room after that. Maybe he was embarrassed. I don't know. But it just was one of those weeks of going into worse things that just keep happening.
Yeah. Phil Gary ran. He wasn't in TeamSpeak with us. He said he barely made the seat to the race in time. He had to get his wife to fire everything up to make it. He ended up P12. And then, Tom, you had the best run, P5.
Yeah, P5. Started 25th. Worked my way top 5 most of the race. We had a 98-lap run to end the race. So we had to go full fuel on both of the runs. I was behind the leader. He spun going into the pits. Cost me some time. I came out 12th, worked my way up to 5th. I'll take that. That's a pretty good Road to Pro race.
Yeah, considering how some of us ran. I was embarrassed, to tell you the truth. I mean, I've been on this service a long time, and I get in that truck in Atlanta, and I can't even keep the tires on it, man, without blowing them.
Well, that makes me feel how I felt in Richmond, where I think I was in the race with Greg, and my tires were 20% less than everybody else on the front tire.
Yeah, you know. See, you're doing something wrong.
With this tire, it's how you drive it in. It's all about how much pressure you put on that right front tire when you go into the corner. I'm a patient driver when it comes to entering a corner, and sometimes it's a detriment to me because guys run me over because they want to drive in hard. But if you go in hard and that tire starts sliding, you're going to just eat it up, and that's how you lose tires.
All right, with that, let's get into final thoughts. David Hall.
Stream twitch.tv/mixmage. Come say hi.
All right, there you go. Greg Hectus, final thoughts.
Stream twitch.tv/frozen cactus. Frozen with 2 O's, cactus with K's. A lot harder than David's, but come
How
talk.
many K's?
Sorry, it's with 2 K's.
Or
and it's a lot harder than Mixed Mage.
Or just go to Facebook Live, Tifosi Racing, and you can see it there too.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then special guest Tom Dreiling. Thanks for coming on to Tifosi Racing. Thanks for coming on the iRacers Lounge podcast. Now you're on the team. We're going to want you here every week if you're available. But hey, what's your final thoughts?
Thank you guys for having me on. It's been a pleasure to be on the team. Looking forward to this weekend. Got the Coke 600 that we're doing for the Major Series. Right now I'm 11th at my set, so looking forward to that race. Have some fun. 600 miles at Charlotte.
I'm not, because I'm the world's worst hot lapper.
That's a long race.
And one of the challenges, though, with that Major Series is you have to get into the top split by queue time.
Hey, Mike, before you do your final thought, one thing I just remembered, plugging the podcast for tomorrow night for the our Aftermath podcast with Chris and Tony. I will be their special guest, I guess, tomorrow night. They've asked me to come on.
Okay, so if you want even more iRacers Lounge podcast material, check them out for a pretty cool show. Yeah, every other week they're doing it. So that'll be tomorrow night. And with my final thoughts, man, Talladega, man, am I confident. I always say this coming into a plate weekend, a plate week, but man, I am. You know, when I ran last night, I was biding my time. I was not leading on purpose because I wanted to make sure I had enough fuel to pit with everybody else. When you're leading at Talladega all the laps, you're at a huge fuel disadvantage. You're going to have 2 less laps than everybody else behind you. And so I didn't want to be that person this week at Talladega. So I stayed in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, this road. And it took me, I had to really kind of hold back because that's not within me to just kind of lay back and not take that lead. But I did. And I thought it was going to work out. You know, I got turned by some guy, which I probably shouldn't have. I don't know if he's got something against me, but it wasn't cool and I wasn't happy with it. But I was happy with how I was running. So tomorrow night, I'm going to get that freaking win. I'm going to show you how it's done. And with that, we'll see you on the track. Later. Thank you for listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast. Make sure to go subscribe to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Google Play, Facebook, and Twitter. See you on the track.